If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rich as Fuck podcast, the show where we talk about money, life, investing, and all things in between. Apologies this week for those watching the YouTube feed. I am very hideous. I may have slipped and knocked my eye on something. My voice is
Charl fell on the stairs.
And today I'm really excited because I have a very esteemed yachting veteran as well as a very dear friend of mine who I had the privilege of working for and with for 4.5 years, Antonio Archdale. And yes, ladies and gents, that is his real name. Welcome, good sir.
Good morning, Charl. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Where are you finding yourself today?
I am in Mexico City right now for another day, and then I'm going to go to my country house for the weekend.
He has a country house, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Rich as Fuck podcast, after all.
So, yeah, I'm excited to be here with you, Charl. Obviously, I was one of the early contributors to your podcast, to your email thread. So I'm keen to hash this out and finish it off for once. For good.
So yeah, for those that don't know, Antonio and I have worked together for many years until recently. We had a wonderful time together and learned a lot. We were there for each other, and it's pretty cool to come full circle back to you. And then when he mentioned the email thread, so the newsletter, #like and subscribe, Antonio wrote a piece for me when it was still very early days, when there was maybe like 200 or 300 subscribers. And it's one of the pieces that's done the best. And he wrote very candidly and very, very straightforwardly about how to go broke yachting edition. And that is what we will use today as our framework. So first things first, flashing back to September 2024 when you wrote that piece, what was your motivation?
Look, I read a very similar piece years ago, which I discarded and never listened to. And my friend, who's also in yachting as a chef, reminded me of it. He's like, I wish we could show this to every single person that comes into the industry because it makes so much sense. I'm like, yeah, sure, but did we listen? Not at the start, not of the first 2, 4, 6, 8 years, but as you get settled and this industry gets its claws into you, then some things stop impressing you, you know, and your really financial wisdom becomes quite important. I've got to thank you because you've nagged me so much to have financial responsibilities that since I've worked with you, my entire outlook on how I handle my finances has changed for the good, you know. And I keep telling my partner, like, just put that money on the S&P, you know, don't spend that money on that shirt or those shoes. Just imagine what that would do in the markets. And I am holding myself up pretty good in my retirement and my degenerate portfolios, how I like to call them, you know. So I do have my do not touch, do not put in stupid investments, and I have my moderate investments, and I got my degen fund, you know. Which is basically gambling, and I enjoy it, and it's something that gives me pleasure. So
that's good. And I like that approach. Oftentimes when people start like reading or listening to what I say, or the people on the show come to say, they think that, you know, it's all about the boringness and you have to pinch pennies and don't buy the cappuccino. That's not what we're trying to proclaim here. It's just make sure that the bulk of your assets and the bulk of your hard work are sitting in reliable investments that will over time compound. Everyone has a little bit of degen. You feed your inner degenerate with things like options trading, which I absolutely hate, but sometimes it hits and you're really good for it. My DGen fund is more crypto allocated, and even though it's maturing a bit more as an asset class, it still very much is volatile. So I'm glad that I could have a positive impact on your financial well-being.
I will finally confess to you that I have started buying Bitcoin.
Yay! The first folks. After 5 long years of pleading, he has risen.
The writing's on the wall, and I'm telling you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing your generation and the generation after you. You guys are not buying homes anymore. Well, you are, but the majority of them are not buying homes anymore. You guys are putting all your money on Bitcoin. That's gonna have an effect at some point down the line, and I want to be. I want to be on the right side of the story when it happens. I'm also not I'm going to put my children into Bitcoin, like I'm going to sell my cat to buy Bitcoin. No, like there's got to be, and the thing with investments, as you know, is you got to be diversified or you got to be responsible, both of which I'm just very recently getting into properly. I've always been a degenerate. That piece I wrote, it's every version of it I've been in yachting, I've done it all. I've spent all my money on parties and I've done it on expensive watches, and it's just. I think you have to go through it, but you gotta get out of it quickly. Then again, it's very easy. Like we've both seen together how these people just fall into these like luxury traps where they suddenly think they own the place and they forget they're the staff. And I really say this coldly. It's like you work for the guy, you're not the guy. So focus on building your wealth and like managing your strategies so you eventually can have a good life. I'm not saying that you're not going to be rich, but right now you're not. And you're going to behave like so, okay, every now and again you want to go out and splurge, DGen fund, go for it. But don't live, remember that kid that they worked for us that 23 years old on a deck and salary renting fucking Lamborghinis and living like Jake Paul or whatever, I'm just like, oh my God, cringe, what an idiot,
It's painful. Well, before we tap into more of the investing side of things, I really want to zoom in a bit on that piece. So you mentioned a few types of yachting personalities that you have encountered throughout the years, and you are also very humble in admitting that you were each one of those case studies. So let's start with them. Name for our audience, what is a common yachty stereotype when it comes to pissing away money?
Let me open this thing because I have the memory of an old goldfish. I've lost you. Give me a second.
You're good. I still got you on the screen, and I sent that article to you via.
Yeah, there you are. Okay, there you are. There's the article. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so how to go broke yachting, and I remember this because it was give or take about a year ago. And I was sitting on another property I owned in the north of Mexico, rental property. And it really helped me, have just a one-on-one with myself of how I've done in my career up until now. Where I'm at and how has it been? And then when you asked me to write this article, I know I blew you off for weeks and weeks. And then finally, I just sat down and started writing. And I thought this was a good, cathartic moment to, reminisce on all the fuck-ups I'd been. And I don't mind. I don't mind being a clown, It's okay. I am the first one to admit that I was a train wreck, and I was a train wreck in many ways, as well as financial. I'm glad I was able to right the ship, But let's start with the Lux Chaser, I call it. And this is a guy that grew up in a farm in Kentucky or, a little preserve in Namibia or, some fucking northern town in England. and he's never seen luxury. You know, this was a bit more relevant before the Instagram times, where now everyone's rich and luxurious, you know, luxury for the masses.
Yeah.
But, you know, he comes walking into yachting, owning the place, you know. He's a guy that follows Dan Bilzerian on Instagram still. You know, if he shows up in Fort Lauderdale, and the only wealth he knows is the wealth that Andrew Tate showed him, you know? So he's like, oh, you got a fucking Rolex, Maserati, Lamborghini, and you don't. Like, for me, okay, your teens, early 20s are for destroying, you know? Your 20s are for working your ass off. Like, am I working your ass off? I mean, fuck it, miss weddings, miss everything. Like, just work. And your 30s are for starting to enjoy. I'm not saying you're gonna live like you do, because also there's a balance to it all. But you know, it's the guy that goes to the club every weekend or every time he has a day off, and you see him at the VIP table buying bottles, and guy who instead of buying a $20, $30, which is already an expensive t-shirt, you know, like a surf t-shirt, he's buying like whatever the $150 t-shirt brand is at the time. You know, he's the 20-year-old who just done yachting, who was flashing around his credit card going, I'll buy the rounds at the bar at $500 a round. You know, this is like FOMO. You know, we all want to be out and doing things, and we all want to be socializing, and we all want to be meeting people. But fuck, man, that is the biggest trap. That is the biggest trap you'll find in yachting. And I remember when I joined the industry very, very young. I was 17 when I started yachting. I remember seeing my first mates going out and just buying rounds and I'm like, you know, back then drinks were a lot cheaper, but just going like, wow, these guys spend a lot of money. So even though you're making a great salary, your cost of living is skyrocketing because you got to keep this certain standard of what you do, and then they expect you to reciprocate. So, you know, you know, first mate buying 5 rounds of drinks is all right, you know, at his salary, but a 17-year-old and my salary trying to buy a round of drinks is like that's half my salary gone in one night, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, my biggest advice for that would be just, if you encounter someone like that, don't try to beat them. Don't try to match them. Don't try to be bigger than them. Just let their ego. Let their ego.
Let them burn.
Let them burn. Let them buy you dinner. Let them buy you around the drinks. Let them drive you around in Maserati. Blah blah. You just flow, man. But don't get involved.
Yeah.
Because, and I've been sober, proudly sober for nearly 10 years now, and you start running that tab on how much money you spend on alcohol, and I'm going to reverse Uno card you. You start thinking how much that money would have made you in an investment account.
It's terrifying.
I mean, and in the yachting life, I bet you it is an average of a third of people's salaries that people spend on alcohol.
That's a very fair guesstimation, I'd say.
I'd say an average snapshot of the industry of yachts that are in the big ports. How much is the crew spending on alcohol? A third. That fucking, without a shadow of a doubt. That's a lot of money. That's your taxes you're spending on alcohol.
And God forbid you have to spend $100 on a course that's going to better yourself at investing, or investing in a gym membership or anything like that. It's pretty crazy how distorted your priorities get when you fall into this lifestyle trap of yachting. And look, we've both lived, I wasn't a degenerate for as long as you were, by the sounds of it, but I definitely had my fair share of oopsies and debauchery. But as long as it's just balance, and spending a third of your paycheck on alcohol is by definition imbalanced. What is after our Lux Chaser?
The hoarder.
The hoarder. Okay, I know
Hoarder.
a guy. I know a guy.
Okay, sorry, Chris, my dear, if you're listening to this is for you, bud, because he is the hoarder, And I put a little story here. I found myself sitting on a beach in Papua New Guinea with the second engineer, who was a dear friend of mine. And we just been fired, literally in the middle of Papua New Guinea. Humans are still eating other humans not far off from there. And we're sitting on this beach, looking at each other, going, what the fuck now? I look behind me, and there's a mountain of luggage. I'm talking like, God knows how many surfboards, kite gear for me, kite gear for him, golf clubs for both, a bunch of bags, and, like, you name it. There must have been like 25 pieces of large luggage sitting on the sand there. And I'm just like, what are we doing, man? And, these are the people that they don't go drinking, they go shopping, and I'm going to buy, a set for my future house that I'm going to build of plates or knives or whatever. But I'm not going to buy them at Target. I'm going to buy them at, Tiffany's or, I'm going to get into kiteboarding. I'm going to buy all the gear, $20,000 worth of gear before I even get there. Oh, I'm going to get in cycling's a great one. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a $50,000 road bike or, hobbies. Spending is important. Money should flow. Money should exchange hands, right? That we all agree on. However, I am the king of hobbies. I've done them all. I'd have spent probably more money on hobbies than alcohol because I'm sober. So the only way to keep me sober is to keep me busy, And that was really important towards the start of my dry path. Yeah. And you've seen me. I mean, how many boats have I owned? Fixer-uppers, How many boats have I bought that I just sold the dream and it failed?
We worked on it for one weekend and then it became a pipe dream.
Yeah. So, and again, my house in Fort Lauderdale became a storage unit for people's shit. And I have closets of friends of mine in Europe full of my shit. And you start going through it, and I'm like, why did I buy this? But everything is $10, and you start accumulating, and you're like, okay, that's $100, that's $1,000. Over the course of 20 years, that's a lot of dollars. So,
yeah,
you gotta not say not buy. What I am saying is buy wisely, It's just like, okay, if your thing is you're a surfer, okay, then buy your boards, keep your quiver on board, but then don't buy 3 board bags, 8 boards, and, kiting or, golf clubs, okay, golfing is actually a really good sport to do in yachting. There's golf clubs everywhere. They don't take much room. They're easy to transport. It's not an expensive day out for the amount of time you're getting out there, So I'm a big fan of golfing. Also, it connects you with nature after being in a salt and
just to go back to what you said there. So it's important to know how to spend. The newsletter I wrote this week was about the art of spending. And I'm very guilty of it because I'm very obsessed about saving and investing, and sometimes to my own detriment. I've definitely given up on experiences I know I would have valued because I was in my own head, yeah, but if you invest this now, you're like, who gives a fuck? If you enjoy it now, that's important. And one of my favorite quotes in personal finance It's by Ramit Sethi, and he says, spend extravagantly on the things you care about, but cut mercilessly on the things you don't. So with your example, if you know you're a surfer and that's what you value, and water sports, you're like, okay, there we go. Unlimited budget for that. But if you know you don't care about things like fancy food or, business class plane tickets, then like don't spend money on that. And then that way you are feeding yourself the things that you actually do care about. And it's a win.
You drive it budgeting. Okay, this is how much money I have to spend for this. It's there. If I don't use it, the pot gets bigger. If I use it, then it's not at my disposal.
So we've run through the Lux Chaser. We've run through the Hoarder. What else do we have? You kind of put the Hoarder and the Hobbyist extraordinary.
And the hobbyist. We can touch on the hobbyist. These are the people that have the hobbies at home. And it's that old Land Rover Defender that's been sitting there that they're going to restore when they get home. Fifth wheels or campers that are sitting there that are going to fix up the old school bus that's sitting in a storage unit, costing the sailboat that they're going to take around the world, that kind of thing, right? And this I have a PhD on. So, we all have dreams, myself included. I look at sailboats every day looking for that one, beside my job, looking for that one that I am going to take, And it's really important when you're being put through the ringer that you can access those dreams up here and just daydream about what you're going to do. My dad always instilled this to me. It's like, you should dream. You should picture yourself and dream yourself doing the things you love, and they will come. And I'm a firm believer in that. I still do it to this day. However, when you buy or have a depreciating asset sitting in a storage unit somewhere in the world that you go to and work on when you're on holiday, then just this exercise is important. And this is how I run my hobbies now, really following these 3 steps. It's like, how much is the asset going to be worth in 6 months or a year? And how much will I be able to sell it for if I complete it? Or how much will it be worth once I'm done with it? How much is your time worth? And how many hours it will take you to achieve your goals? And if you think your project is going to take 100 hours, so you don't have an idea, then you should not be doing it. If you're going into one of these projects not knowing how long it's going to take and not having a clear budget or cost analysis of how much this thing's going to set you back, then you're not willy-nilly fixing a bolt here or there is for retirees. You don't have the time. And this is a clear case of you have the money because you're working, but you don't have the time. And then when you go home, okay, the first week you're going to work on it. And then you're going to be like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And why am I not enjoying my time off? And that dream is going to die right there and then. And that asset is going to be extremely depreciated because it's going to be in dream condition, I call it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
it's going to piss you off looking at it. It's a liability.
No, and it's okay. You know what? The amount of money you sink into that thing that's going to sit there for 6-7 years while you finish it, and the amount of money and how much is your time worth really look like, okay, per hour, how much are you charging? And how much is the mechanics and the contractors that you're going to have to call to come and help you with things, painters, whatever. How much is their time worth? And then how much is that money going to be worth after 5-6 years if you put it into something in an investment? At which point you'll probably be able to buy something already done. Okay, I get it. The wet dream of fixing your own thing. It's, I fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Poof, poof.
you know, you don't have that luxury. You work overseas and you work your ass off. So,
yeah.
Work your ass off, invest your money, and when you're ready, pull it out and sink it all into that dream, you know, and be like, hey, okay, I'm going to work for 6, 7, 8 years, make all this money. When I'm ready, I'm going to go buy a sailboat. I'm going to have a very short period where I'm going to fix the little things that need to be fixed. And then I'm going to go sailing for 2 years. And then when I get back, I'm going to have an asset that is not 50 years old, that's been refurbished, that will never gain its value back.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a newer, its life cycle is going to be a lot gentler, right? You're going to be able to sell it at a much fairer price and not lose your ass on it. Yeah. If that makes any sense. So, and this is a sentence I put, every dollar you put into your passion project today is $10 you're not getting tomorrow. Simple as that, you know? You'll never see that money again. Never. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, by the way. Like, shit, you know, and I'll say it openly and candidly. Because I was chasing that dream without realizing that my strategy was wrong.
Yep. Yeah. And the opportunity cost is immeasurable. Now that we've backed on the types, the common stereotypes, I want to kind of tap into the psychology about why this happens. Like, is it insecurity, peer pressure, chasing status, boredom? Why do you think yachties behave like this?
Look, let's face it, the one thing that yachting gives you, and you'll find American crew are a lot more responsible with their finances because they get taxed out the ass, you know, so they don't have the disposable cash that other crews have. So it's just, for a lot of people, it's the first job or first job out of college. You know, you start looking at how much living in this planet costs. You know, how much is my grocery bill every week? How much is my utilities, rent or mortgage? Well, rent for in this situation, and, you know, putting gas in my car or taking the bus or taking transport, Ubers. You'd lose, you know, a lot of your salary. So when you live on a boat that provides everything, and then when you work, you know, 80% of the time, and suddenly you have some time off, you want to just let go, you know? Some people drink, some people party, some people spend. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think everyone just wants to have that little thing that holds them from going insane. Because this industry is very tough on the head, you know? And you're away from home, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, you're away from your special events. So everyone needs like an excuse to just blow out and go out and feel a little bit special, or put a dollar towards their dream, or, you know, work on something or work on a project. And I mean, you've done it, I've done it. I know countless of friends in the industry that sit there and are trying to figure out what their next move is going to be, career-wise. And this is the most important thing I'm going to say in this podcast, Charl. I've been in yachting for 20 years. Since I was 17, I joined my first yacht. The first 5 years are great. They're amazing. I wouldn't change them for the world. The first 10 years were amazing. But as you climb up the ladder, things get tougher. The burden of responsibility gets real, you know. This is no longer, you know, the captain, you know, I'll get a slap on the wrist. Once you start driving, you are the person in charge. You're in charge for those lives. You're in charge for those assets. Your financial responsibilities become a lot more serious, because suddenly you can't just drop the towel and fuck off. Because if you lose your job, then you're out your ass, because then who's going to pay your mortgage, you know, and who's going to pay your lifestyle and your cost of living? So it debts to you. And all my friends that started yachting at the same age that I started yachting are out. And it seems to be the 20-year mark. There's like distinct like places where people leave the industry. It seems to be like right before Officer of Watch, where people say like, hey, I'm not going to pursue this any further. I saw what I had to see. Or, right before captain, I know chief mates that are like, I'm not going to be a captain. Why would I? I'm on rotation. I'm making good money. I live really well at home. Why should I go chasing this and invest all this money into my career when I don't see the return and I don't understand the stress? It's not easy on you. It's not easy on your body. It's not easy on your mind. It's not easy on your family. Families in yachting rarely work. And I don't want to be negative Nancy. Like, I really had a wonderful time in that stage of my career in the yachting industry, because obviously I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it under another facet. But have an exit plan and have a safety fund, and you drive on the safety fund. For me growing up, it was thirds, Third for me, third for saving, third for safety. It's simple as that, and if anything happens, I dig into the safety and everything else remains untouched. Yeah. So, but don't underestimate how quickly that time comes around. Because for me, I was like, I can do another 3-4 years. And I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired, But also, right back to not spending in stupid things and budgeting and having a very well laid out sort of a financial plan means that you can take time to yourself when you're in between jobs or whatever, And obviously, with a lot of boats rotation, that's incredible. I didn't have that growing up. It was just being instituted when I was kind of at the later stages of my career. The rotation makes a huge difference, but it's still 6 months of the year traveling. I'm doing that right now in my job. I'm trying to hold a normal life. So you'll find a lot of people on rotation are actually quite alienated because they're like, I'm getting the worst of both worlds because I'm not making that much money. And I'm unable to make meaningful friendships and relationships and connections at home because I'm never there. So it's all a balance. All I'm saying is have an exit plan, and the best way to buy you time to figure shit out, because I'm a slow learner. I need time to sit on it and figure out what I'm going to do next. Is to have money in the bank. As simple as that,
Yeah, what you said there really makes a lot of sense. And I think this episode is going to be really refreshing for the newer crew in the industry to hear that just because someone was in the industry for 20 years doesn't mean they had it figured out. Like, you are very real, very candid. And I love what you said with always have an exit plan in the back of your mind, because you don't want to wake up one morning being like, I absolutely hate my job. And then there's nothing to fall back on. And then the tap runs dry. So very sound advice there.
I'm not going to speak for my industry peers, but I can pretty much promise you that there's very few captains out there that wake up in the morning and enjoy what they do. It's a very tough job. It's hard on your body. It's hard on your family. It's hard on your mind. Money's great, but at some point, money is not everything, Balance, Charl.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it all in sync.
We need equilibrium.
So yeah, I mean, I've transitioned into another facet of the industry, and it's a completely new thing for me, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's not having... Sorry, go ahead.
No, carry on.
I've transitioned into sales. Not having a guaranteed source of income is terrifying. It's not a walk in the park. There's a lot that goes on into it, because we've always, especially when I was younger, I was like, what the fuck's the brokers do? They don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And then you realize the network of relationships and everything that goes on in the PR side is huge. It's huge, and it's often underestimated. And my career has gone from managing a crew and a boat and, being there 9 to 5 kind of thing, to having to go out and seek connections with the right people. Yeah, a lot of times not really buyers, is just with individuals that are going to connect you to buyers, So my week is now split on 3 days a week. I do office work. And then 3 days a week, I go out and have luncheons and dinners. And those luncheons and dinners, you got to be liked, and your pitch is got to land. And you got to, yesterday I went out for lunch with a client. It was midday and I got home at 10 o'clock at night. And I had to sit there, they're drinking heavily. I don't drink. And I have to get my product across. And it's got to land. There's no ifs or buts. It's like, hey, this is what I'm offering, and you have to take it.
Yeah.
And it's no longer about, hey, you got to get the boat safely, or you got to keep the guests happy, or you got to keep the crew going. It's about, you got to generate leads. As you know, with your business here, it's just about numbers. I'm always very much, I'm always about the data, right? And this is where I couldn't get this new facet of my career aligned with who I am, until I realized this. It's all about the numbers. It's just like you gotta meet your targets. You gotta meet this many meetings per week. You gotta meet this many leads per week, and you gotta keep at it. And the problem is, there's no money coming in, but there's a lot of money coming out. You would fall off your chair if you knew how much money I spent in marketing this month.
Yeah.
Me personally, out of my pocket. But if you think, and this goes for any entrepreneurial type out there, if you think that gold's going to come to you and you're not going to have to spend money and resources on it, you're a fool, my friend.
You got to buy them shovels. Yeah.
You got to buy them shovels, and no one's going to come and take your product if you sit on your ass and not sell it. So, I'm excited. I really am. I like learning new things. It's the next level for me. It's the obvious career choice for a lot of captains, but it's not a walk in the park. It really is. And I know a lot of people within the industry that are not doing brokerage, that are heads of big yachting companies, and they told me, I tried the broker thing. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't cut out for it. I needed the stable income. Nothing wrong with that. So, but I am in a situation where I can explore this opportunity because my piggy bank is healthy enough that I can afford to take a hit for a few months and invest in myself in that regard. So, yeah.
Well, look, I have no doubt, knowing you for so many years, that you will make a success of it. And especially on the difficult days where you've just realized that you're approaching end of month budget, and suddenly a easy boat delivery gig pops up and your radar goes off and you're like, oh, okay, let's go. Like, I encourage you to stick to your commitment, which I know you will, because you are really talented. I think you caught a really good market serving the Mexican clientele, and the Spanish speaking market as a whole, I think is a nice niche to tap into. And knowing you're super knowledgeable about boats, hard worker. So it's just about grinding your teeth out in the beginning. And I wish you all the success, Mabri.
Thank you, Charl. And same to you. You've been a huge inspiration to me. And, I was a captain, you were the first mate on the boat. But in life, I think we coached each other really well. And what you taught me on new school thoughts, I taught you an old school know-how, So
yeah,
I'm delighted that we would spend the last, 5 years together.
Yeah.
And I look forward to buying a school bus and our children forming a rock band.
South Africa and Mexico collide.
Yeah. Tour the countryside.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And thanks for coming on. This was a super fun episode because it was a little different. We were just going away from the numbers and the boringness and the psychology and the candidness. I think everyone will really enjoy. I expect this episode to do really well. And just before I say goodbye to you, for those that want to learn more about you and what you do now as a broker, how can they find you?
Find me on Instagram. That's probably the best. The Archipelago. Yeah, and you can see what I get out to there. And that's the other one, with brokering. It's I love boats. I've always loved boats since I was a child, and there's boats that pay for your living expenses and there's passion projects, like anything, so back to the balance. You gotta keep a balanced life, so yeah, okay, you sell 10 Sunseekers or 10 Benettis, which I haven't done, by the way. So then you occasionally get this boat. I just had this one sailboat. No one wanted to touch it. This sailboat in Panama, 80-foot sailboat. And I saw it, and I'd seen this sailboat for years listed, and I was like, I want it. Like this is got me all over it. So I flew down to Panama, met the owner, and we instantly formed this relationship where it was based on mutual love for sailing,
Yes.
So from an opportunity that no one wanted to take, I took, and that door turned into so many other doors in Panama and in Peru, and people saw me like, oh, you sell boats? Hey, I need some. So don't scoff on work ever. Don't turn your back on anything, and just, you're not above anyone or anything, just get them all.
Get him. I love that. Well, thanks, Hans. I really appreciate that.